Well, Razorback fans, J.J. Andrews will be making his decision on where to attend college on Thursday. Will he be a hog? Let's certainly hope so, because it's very important. And I'm going to tell you why on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Neighbors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $2,000 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Hope everybody's having a wonderful, wonderful Tuesday as we are going throughout the week. We're going to talk a little bit today about the Razorback baseball team and how they can handle the antics of Tennessee coming into town in Baum Walker. And also, should Calipari keep a beard or at least grow the beard back? We'll explain that here in a little bit. But so there was some news that's going to be happening this Thursday where a lot of you may have heard of him and some of you may have not heard of him. But J.J. Andrews, he's a top 35 recruit in high school basketball right now. He has decided on Thursday he will be making his commitment, making his decision. And the University of Arkansas Razorbacks is one of his three schools that he will be choosing between: Arkansas, LSU, and Missouri. He's 6'6", and he is out of Little Rock Christian. He's a four-star shooting guard in the 2026 class. So needless to say, he's a pretty intriguing player and a really good player from the state of Arkansas, which, as you've heard me talk about on this podcast many times, if you can get high-level players in college basketball to go to your school at Arkansas, you're always going to have great recruiting in this state. So you can usually build a highly talented team and a highly talented program from that. But those are his three finalists. He also had offers to Oklahoma, Marquette, Illinois, Ole Miss, Texas Tech, USC, as well as several others. He was Arkansas Gatorade Player of the Year, 2024 EYBL Peach Jam champion with Brad Beal Elite, two-time state champion, Max Prep All-American, and so much more. So the accolades go on and on. But honestly, what one of the biggest things about him that some of you probably know and some of you may not know is that he is the son of a former great Razorback, Shawn Andrews. You remember Shawn Andrews? The offensive tackle, right? Remember him? Yeah, he was pretty good, needless to say. He was pretty good. In fact, he was arguably the best offensive lineman that Arkansas has ever had. He was a two-time All-American, had high praise and high regards coming out of high school, and just was about as consistent as can be. He had a great career in the NFL, was a Pro Bowler. I know he battled through some injuries, but still, he was one of the all-time greats. And as great of a player as JJ is, I always love stories like this because, let's be honest, they don't seem to happen very often. You know, first off, it makes me feel old to think that Shawn Andrews has a kid like this that is to that age, and how odd that is. You know, because I remember watching Shawn Andrews play, and it wasn't that long ago. I mean, we're talking about in 2003, roughly? Yeah, 2003. So to see now that he has a kid that's highly regarded, has a chance to choose Arkansas, which I think he does. I think he'll pick Arkansas. With all that, just really shows his, man, I'm getting old, and it's wild to think. But also the thing about Shawn Andrews is that since he's been an all-time great Razorback, for him having a son that could be possibly a next big thing at Arkansas is always just a cool story. And sometimes we've seen relatives of other players, great players, either end up going to Arkansas or not. And it's been different reactions from it. It's almost like this expectation that we think, you know, in Arkansas, for instance, if you're from the state, you need to be a Razorback. You know, it's just what you do, because everybody grows up to be a Razorback, right? If you're in the state, you grow up because you want to be a Razorback. It's not the case, but it's like what we like to think about. We'd like to think that every kid here in the state was raised the same way we were, to witnessed the pain and suffering of being a Razorback fan, but dadgummit, still wanting to be a Razorback through and through. That's our assumption every single time, but it's not always the case. I think, I know it's a different relationship, but I think from Marcus Monk and Malik Monk. Obviously, Marcus Monk was at Arkansas, a great Razorback, but Malik Monk decided to take his talents to play for, ironically enough, Calipari over at Kentucky. So we've seen that happen. We've seen families, come into play. I know the Beckett's being one of them. Hudson Clark had family that were Razorbacks. Just so many different examples of that. Ronnie Brewer and Ron Brewer, maybe one of the best examples of it. And, being great players and everything. And it's just such a cool story. It's probably a story that a lot of people get tired of. If and when he does commit to Arkansas, and if he ends up being great for Arkansas and playing for Arkansas, it's going to be the story that gets thrown around a lot every time he's on TV. They're going to show Shawn Andrews and all of that. But these are the types of things that really make for the great stories of Razorback lore. I've always said that anytime somebody becomes great at Arkansas, they're always going to feel, and I'm always going to feel like there's such a special thing in my heart where even if they didn't win a national championship, even if they didn't, get to the level that maybe some were hoping or get the team to the level that some were hoping, there's still an element of pride that comes from it because they were a Razorback and, they had great moments or they were known for many great things. And whenever you have a family member that's part of a great family from whatever sport it is, also choose Arkansas, there's always that pride that comes along with it. But on top of that, also has come pressure, especially when you're considering some of these relatives, the relatives that were previously a Razorback, being all-time greats. Now, luckily for J.J. Andrews, he's playing a different sport. He's not playing the same, or at least being known for the same sport as Shawn was in football. So it may be a little bit different, but there's always going to be that added pressure where, hey, you're this guy's kid. And if you're coming to Arkansas, you got to live up to that name. You got to live up to that expectation. I'm not saying everybody does that, but there has to be an element of that. And that's why I've always thought it was so cool with the Ronnie Brewer thing, where Ron was part of the triplets. It's really hard to consider just how impactful and how important the triplets were to Razorback basketball and Razorback sports in general. And Ron was a player out of Fort Smith and obviously did some great things. But then when Ronnie was coming up in Fayetteville, he had everybody recruiting him. I remember going to a Fayetteville High School game back when he was playing and seeing Roy Williams when he was at Kansas just across the way. He was there. He had scholarship offers pretty much to anywhere he wanted to go. He was that level of player. But with his dad, there was always just, kind of that thing of like, okay, well, is this Ron's son? Is he going to live up to it? Is he going to play? Like this? It's just this added pressure that comes with it. And Ronnie handled it terrifically. He was one of the best players in the SEC in the stretch that he played, the 3 years that he played at Arkansas, and really elevated his game, had some really great moments too. And now he's on staff and continuing to be a great Razorback, which is just awesome. So the point I'm trying to make is that it's a difficult thing to live up to that hype, live up to that expectation that comes along with it. But I think that because of that fact, there's always going to be the Razorback support system, more so for that player and more so for that kid than anything. Because some people will just say, oh, well, that pressure means that people are going to be critical. People are going to be hating on him or whatever if it doesn't go well. See, I don't see it that way. I see the pressure comes through of people want him to succeed so badly. And because of the fact that he has coming from a Razorback family, it's going to give a benefit of the doubt a little bit. It's going to give a little bit more breathing room. It's going to give a little bit of more, okay, well, yeah, but, he may not have played well here, but hey, he's going to. It's like people will believe in him a little bit more. At least that's what, from my understanding, from what I've seen. Because, again, he checks all the boxes. He's an in-state kid. He's a highly regarded kid, a top 35 player. And, the fact that he'd rather even consider LSU and Missouri is a joke. So obviously he's going to Arkansas, right? But Razorback fans will always clamor and always go towards a player of that caliber and of that mindset that is just, people want him to be so good. And somebody like him, I really think highly of. And I think that if he decides to be a Razorback, whatever he ends up doing, but if he decides to be a Razorback, I think people will welcome him and people will really go along with it. And also the fact that he's going to be playing for John Calipari is another element. And that to me is also another special thing about him. I have to remind myself sometimes that John Calipari is the head coach of Arkansas. And what I mean by that is that there's not this element of, okay, well, we're going to take this player just because we need somebody, or he's an in-state kid just for the sake of being an in-state kid, we're going to take him. No, there's not that. This is John Calipari. He is not about to just bring on anyone for the sake of bringing them on. He's not about to just add a player because there's no value to him, but he's just like, why not? We need the dues. We need the bodies in there. He has the highest expectation and the highest standard for what his program wants it to be. And so if he believes that J.J. Andrews is somebody that's going to help out the program and really be a part of it and really be able to have some value into it, he's not even going to recruit him. He's not even going to offer him a scholarship or anything if he doesn't feel confident about that. And so that's another thing that I love, is that Cal sees Andrews, not just, he's a former Razorback, and so we got to give him he comes from a family of a former Razorback. Therefore we have to make sure we get him on the team and get the scholarship, even if I don't want him. No, Cal wants him. Cal wants this player. And he wants him to be on the team because there's value there. So that's what I also appreciate. And that's what also excites me, is knowing that that's Cal's mindset. That's Cal's approach. And this will go for anybody in future reference. Because if anybody's thinking like, you're just saying that because of who he is. No, I'm talking about any future in-state player or anything. Not adding them for just the sake of, we got to add them. But adding them because they're high-quality players that are going to be able to be a part of a team that's going to be championship caliber. That tells me a lot about the type of player that he could end up being. So I really hope that J.J. Andrews chooses Arkansas, obviously. And I hope it really works out for him in his career in college. But every time I see his name, it kind of just reminds me of like, hey, this could be a really cool story. This could be the beginning of a really cool story. And I guess we'll find out on Thursday, I guess later in the afternoon, where he ends up going. Well, let's just hope he calls the Hogs. We're going to talk about Razorback baseball and how they handle the antics of Tennessee. You know what antics I'm talking about. We're going to do that coming up next here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, so stay with us. All right, Razorback fans, I'm here to tell you about FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game. Before tip-off and live, with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and to win big. Which players are showing up in the biggest moments? How can you track all of their great accomplishments and their trends to help build your next bet? Well, that's why you got to, check out the app, because it's going to help you out with that and guide you with all of that too. And you can also combine other different bets too. They have these things called, parlays that you can get involved in. Mid-game based parlays to see how the action unfolds. How could $200 in bonus bets add to the excitement? Well, when your only $5 bet hits, that's what you get, $200 in bonus bets. So if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So I talked a little bit about this on my podcast yesterday, about the antics, man, about college baseball's antics and how it gets a little over the top. I talked about Inside Arkansas Live. And, I think most Razorback fans agree with me, even though I see some Tennessee fans that get all fed up and fired up and start calling me every name in the book, or anybody that ever disagrees with them every name in the book, and it's just part of it. But, I feel like there's a little in between that you can do. You can still have fun, still get a little fired up, still have the hype machine going, while also making sure that you keep it in check and you keep a level head of yourselves. But either way, it is a mind game, because that's the thing about sports, is that you see teams like this, teams like Tennessee all the time, teams that are, it's a lot of times players, but teams especially who are over energized, who are over emotional, who hang on everything and love to talk, love to get into the head, and whether it's just going crazy because you walked in the second inning, or going crazy and pimping a home run, talking trash that way, having ridiculous celebrations to go along with it. Now, whatever it is, this is not the first type of team that's ever done something like this in sports. And in almost every case, when something like this goes on, there's a reason for it. It's because they want to try to get into the head of their opponent. At least that's part of it. And I started trying to think it from my own perspective. If I'm playing any level of sport, pick up basketball, or, going out there and playing golf, any sport where it's just, very casual, nothing too crazy, nothing highly competitive, a very casual game. If I'm playing it and my opponent is acting that way, how do I react to that? As a competitor, how do I react to that? Do I react to it in a negative or a positive way? Do I act in a way of, I'm going to use that, or do I ignore it? And if I do use it, am I going to use it to fuel me because I focus in? Am I going to go back at them and go kind of try to one up them on their hype and all of their antics there? Do I, maybe even go a little across a line and try to push back a little bit? Like, there's just so many things that go into your head about how do you handle it? Because everybody's different. And I think a lot of you, if you ask yourself the same question, you probably already have in a mindset, well, this is how I'd handle it. I'd go out and I handle business. Well, yeah, duh, of course. But it's a matter of, do you handle your business by letting that fuel you? Because there's some people where if they let that get into their head, if they even let it in for a second, they're going to start failing. They're going to start letting it impact their game. They're going to let it impact their technique. They're going to overthink things, all of that stuff. So it's almost part of like the coaching and almost like the game plan that you have to have if you're Dave Van Horn in Arkansas, which Dave's going to have it handled. I'm not even worried about it. But going into this game of like, hey, this team's going to do this stuff. This team's going to pimp some stuff. How do you keep focused in? How do you keep focused on winning the game, winning the series? Because that's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing that counts. That is the only job that you have right here. Go out and win. How do you make sure you stay focused on that goal? Because I'm going to be honest. It would be hard for me. It would be. I'm a fan, and when I see that, and if it's going against my team, boy, do I get fired up, just like all of you. And you start wanting to chirp back, and you start wanting to do all that. But luckily, Arkansas's got a pretty strong program and a culture built, thanks to Dave Van Horn, that they don't really have to do those things. I mean, I think about it too. I think it was last year. It was last year when they played Mississippi State at home. They ended up winning the series, and it was a tough one. It was a close game, and I think they finally won game 3. And I remember the post-game deal was Dave Van Horn basically saying, as soon as he starts his speech, he's like, I don't hear bleep coming from that dugout, talking about Mississippi State, because they had been talking. So it's like they handle their business, and then afterwards they're like, that's how we do it. Great thing in theory, but it's got to be strong enough. It's got to be strong enough to where they are focused in. You lost the series against LSU. This is your final regular season series. I believe you're pretty much a lock for a national seed, just as long as you don't get swept in this one. But, play like your hair's on fire. Play as if you are playing for a national seed and what that would mean to be able to have postseason in your stadium. First weekend, hopefully second weekend, hopefully. But use that, fuel that, and deal with it. But fans, this is another thing too, and this is where we'll move on. But for all of you Do what you want to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do there in the stands, but just know it's coming. Just know those antics are coming. And when they do, handle your business yourselves too. Don't say anything that's going to get you tossed out of the game. Don't do anything that's going to get you in trouble. Talk your talk. Have some fun with it. But don't do anything stupid. That's all I'm going to ask. Because there will be some temptations. Believe me, I know. I'm going to talk about this John Calipari beard thing. This is awesome. I'll talk to you about it more. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, do you ever check into your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Well, between dining out and online shopping and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over all of your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start actually building up your wealth. Instead of juggling these multiple apps, which I've seen people have to do, it kind of gets annoying because nobody wants a bunch of apps on their phone to do a bunch of different things. You don't have to worry about that because you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan your long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever as well. And you can track shared personal accounts, set your goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. A lot of you who follow me on Twitter and social media probably saw on Sunday, I posted this video that I found. Ironically enough, it was just randomly on Facebook. I don't get on Facebook very often, but it was one of these recommended for you videos. And I saw it, and it was John Calipari with a beard and long hair. And I was like, man, this must be AI. I got to check this out. I'm going to play the clip for you so you know the context I'm looking at. But this is what I saw, and this is how crazy it was. And I still can't get over it. Check it out.
I'm always pulling my best player aside, and I tell them, I got to coach you harder than everybody else here. If it gets too much, come and see me. We'll talk about it. But if I can coach you hard, I can coach everyone on our team hard. We had Carl Towns. Normally I'll do this. We'll be in the locker room, and it's 2 months into the season, and I'll say, all right, who am I being hardest on? Normally, there'll be 3 or 4 guys. I said, well, it can't be all 3 of you. It's got to be one of you. If I'm saying who am I hardest on. But Carl raised his hand, and everybody pointed at him. And he had such pride that, yep, he gets on me harder than any. He's the number 1 pick. He signed a Supermax contract. He calls me Dad. You know I love you, Dad. I mean, to this day. And I was harder on him than anybody. And I think if you can do that, you can coach. If you can't do that, you can't coach these kind of kids because you'll lose.
Okay, I don't even care what he has to say. I mean, this what he said was great. Like, I'm not trying to take that away from him. But did you see that beard? Did you see the long hair? That was from a podcast, How Leaders Lead, is from 2020. It was during COVID. So, you know, everybody had long hair back then. But I just laughed because I saw that. I was like, dude, that looks great on him, though. And I tweeted it out, and I was just like, okay, well, I can't get over this fact that I thought it was AI, and it really took off. And a lot of people were talking about it. In fact, even Brad Calipari, his son, quote tweeted me and was also laughing. He was like, no way, this is real. So apparently it kind of caused a whole thing. Well, this is what Cal put out on Twitter just yesterday, which was response to it. He just goes, out walking the dog with Ellen, no beard. That picture circulating was from 2020. And he took an awesome selfie. I don't even know where he's at, dude. I don't even know. I was trying to figure that out because I know Fayetteville pretty well, but it doesn't really look like his neighborhood that he lives in. But either way, just hilarious. You see his wife there in the background and just him with no beard and everything, letting everybody know, nope, no beard. That's an old picture. All of that. Which, okay, that's fine, Cal. But bring the beard back, my man. You look good. You look like Pat Riley out there. Mix it up a little bit. Get a little crazy with it. I mean, he's not going to listen to me. He doesn't care about me, but still, I'd be cool if he decided to do that. I'd be all right if he decided to do that and make that happen. But either way, really funny moment though from Cal. As much as, we talk about how much he's just larger than life, almost feels like he's just an unattainable person. He's still a good dude and still got a sense of humor and still really funny. So just love to see that type of humor come out. And something as so simple as a beard and hair and long hair. What a time. What a time. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Neighbors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have, and we'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. We'll see you then.